This week, your voice is your passport. Pre-pwned Android devices, Adobe Flash continues to be one of the most vulnerable pieces of software on the planet. Microsoft has finally given us Patch Tuesday. Brits have their identity stolen, like a lot. We Vibe users came to a settlement. Apache struts its vulnerability everywhere. Spyware leaks, and this just in. Patching your software could prevent a breach. Expert commentary this week will be from Jason Wood, and we'll cover the Wikipedia of the spy world. All that and more on this edition of Hack Naked News. This is a Security Weekly production. You have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Hack Naked News. This is episode 115, and it's March 15th, 2017. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios. First, a couple of quick announcements. The 10th anniversary edition of Source Boston is being held this April, including training sessions on the 24th and the 25th, and conference talks on the 26th through the 27th, featuring awesome speakers from our security community. Security, even. Events will take place in Boston at the Courtyard Marriott downtown, and Security Weekly listeners get a $100 off discount on either the training or conference passes when using the discount code Security Weekly. Visit sourceconference.com for more information. The InfoSec World 2017 conference is being held April 3rd through the 5th at the Omni Orlando Resort in Champions Gate in Orlando, Florida. Security Weekly listeners receive 10% off the conference or World Pass when using the discount code OS17-SW. Hear talks from Kevin Johnson, Rich Mogul, and Cory Doctorow, and more. Visit infosecworld.misty.com to register today. That's MISTI.com. And now, the security news for this week. Lip reading is the latest fad in biometrics. Well, it's not so much a fad as it is research from Hong Kong. Read my lips. Biometrics make us fun stories to cover on the podcast. This very well could be your new password, as researchers, as I said, in Hong Kong have a system that reads lips and makes decisions on whether or not it's you talking or not. The nice part about the system is the password can be changed, but still associated with your biometrics, unlike your fingerprints or retina scans, which, without severely modifying your body, cannot be changed unless you're pregnant, which does change your retina scan. Digress. It won't be the first time I digress on this show. I just can't wait to say, my voice is my passport, verify me, into my phone, which I still do anyhow, and then use my finger to authenticate because, well, I'm a nerd. 38 Android devices have been infected with malware pre-installed in the supply chain. Checkpoint Software Technology said that it found 38 Android handsets were infected with adware, information-stealing malware, and ransomware, a collection of malicious code from a number of different manufacturers was discovered. And here I was thinking I was safer because I use a Google Nexus device. But those were on the list too, well, version 5 of Nexus anyhow. The malware that was added to the devices before they're put in the user's hands and not part of the vendor's original ROM. For 6 of the devices, the attacker had system privileges and the malware could not be removed without reflashing the phone. This is concerning and something we've talked about for some time. What if all our devices are pre-pwned? that is a backdoor before we even get a chance to use them. There must be some sort of testing or standard in place that will spot this activity before things come onto the market. How different is this from eating tainted meat? Okay, well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. However, we have to work together to get the appropriate measures in place to protect our devices. Adobe fixes 6 code execution bugs in Flash. And the exploits just keep on coming for Adobe Flash. 7 vulnerabilities were announced yesterday. Good thing, though, only 6 are reported to be in the category of remote code execution. The vulnerabilities exist in versions 24.0.0.221 and earlier of Flash, according to a security bulletin issued by the company Tuesday morning. No, this isn't news reported from last week or last month or last year or 7 years ago. This dropped yesterday. And speaking of dropping, you should drop Adobe Flash off of your system, like now, preferably. Microsoft has finally given us a patch Tuesday. It's interesting. When asked by ThreatPost to explain why they skipped last month, this was Microsoft's response. And I quote, "Our top priority is to provide the best possible experience for customers in maintaining and protecting their systems. We extensively test our updates to prior releases and are confident that our systems are working as expected and the issue that delayed the February updates is resolved." Gee, thanks for clearing that up, Microsoft. The good news is among the 18 security bulletins, 8 were rated critical. I guess that's not really good news, but it included separate bulletins for Edge and IE that patched the 2 Google disclosed bugs we talked about on previous shows. MS17-006 patches 12 vulnerabilities in Internet Explorer, including CVE 2017-0037, which also is also patched in Edge, disclosed by researcher Yvonne Fratrick, who privately disclosed the flaw to Microsoft last Friday. Happy patching. More Brits ID stolen than ever before. UK identity fraud has hit its highest record level, according to a new report. Fraud Prevention Service CIFIS recorded 172,919 identity frauds in 2016, more than in any other previous year. Identity fraud now represents over half, 53.3% of all fraud recorded. No reason is given for the rise in identity theft, but take these surveys with a grain of salt. An increase in certain types of behavior can be attributed to many factors, including a better and more accurate measuring process, and the fact that more people have computers and the internet than ever before. WeVibe creator is to pay damages after spying on user sex lives. Finally coming to a point of resolution, sex toy company Standard Innovation Corporation has agreed to settle a class action lawsuit. You may remember or even be a user of the sex toy product WeVibe. Using Bluetooth connectivity, you and your partner can remotely use the toy together. While this may sound fun, your personal information, including time, duration, and temperature settings, along with your email address, was being collected and stored without your permission. As a result of the lawsuit, as reported by the National Post, the Ottawa, Canada-based firm must pay out $4 million Canadian dollars, $2.9 million US dollars if you're counting, under the terms of the settlement. Standard Innovation has also agreed to destroy all of the personal information collected from users. Anyone who purchased a vibrator with the accompanying app before September 26, 2016 is entitled to damages of up to $10,000. Those who bought the vibrator without the app can claim $199. I mean, you didn't just think we were going to let this company get off, did you? No, I digress. Get it? Anyway, Apache Struts is biting a lot more software. The Apache Struts vulnerability is making the rounds. The Canadian Revenue Agency website was hacked, reportedly as a result of this bug. A host of other products that embed this technology are vulnerable. So far, only Cisco's Identity Services Engine, Prime Service Catalog Virtual Appliance, and Unified SIP proxy software need fixing. Good thing it's only those. There is, however, an extensive list of products still under investigation. VMware is also run up a warning flag, issuing an advisory reporting exposures in Horizon Desktop as a Service, vCenter Server, vRealize Operations Manager, and vRealize Hyperic Server. Patches are pending. Best to check that list and get patching. Government spyware maker doxes itself. Dox is a bit of an overstatement in this case. Hackers sometimes make mistakes, like leaving a link to the website of the company that developed the malware in the malware code itself. That's what happened with a piece of Android malware designed to spy on its victims that turned up excuse me, in Asia last week. Security company Bitdefender found the spyware and noted at the time that it seemed to have been developed by Italian speakers targeting specific Android devices, selecting their victims based on their device's IMEI codes, without going further into its attribution. Turns out, spyware was developed by a company called GR Sistemi, yet another firm that got sloppy in the rush to get a cut of the booming and often unscrupulous surveillance on businesses, or surveillance business, I should say. Get this, the company did not respond to multiple requests for comment. And in breaking news this week, software patches could prevent most breaches, a study finds. The survey of 318 companies conducted by research firm Voke Media in late 2016 found that 27% of companies reported a failed audit in the prior 18 months, of which 81% could have been prevented with a patch or configuration change. Similarly, 26% reported a breach, of which 79% could have been prevented with those two measures. Look, I like to see at least 600 respondents in a survey before I take it seriously. Also, patch and configuration changes are sometimes two very different things. However, they're both important. You should do both of them. And like lots of other stuff to secure your organization, you can't learn about those things from a focused survey and make you have this aha moment to say, wow, we should be patching our systems. I'm so glad they put out this survey. It's just not that cut and dry of an issue. Processes, people, and technology must come together and constantly evolve to have a great security program. Not that that's news to any of our listeners and viewers, because you've heard me say that probably 1,000 times. Coming up next, Jason Wood from Paladin Security comes by to talk about the Wikipedia of the spy world. But first, a word from our sponsors. Gain control of cyber risk with Tenable.io, the first vulnerability management platform built for today's elastic assets like cloud, containers, and web apps. Discover a fresh, asset-based approach that prioritizes vulnerabilities while seamlessly integrating into your environment. And improve ROI with the first elastic licensing approach based on assets, not IP addresses. Tenable.io delivers the data and context you need to secure your elastic attack surface. Start your free Tenable.io trial today by visiting Tenable.io. Logarithm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logarithm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. IT Pro TV, an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. Access over 2,000 hours of up-to-date, high-quality video content live and on demand via your PC, mobile device, and more. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your account, visit itpro.tv/hacknaked and use the code HN30. Speaking of itpro.tv, they have courses which now include Exchange 2016, Wireshark, ECIH, and ECES. IT Pro TV recently introduced new membership levels. The new standard membership is $57 a month or $570 a year, and it includes access to on-demand course library, live chat, and the Q&A forum. The new premium membership is $85.70 per month or $857 per year, and includes access to all standard membership features, in addition to unlimited transcender practice exams, virtual labs, and access to the enterprise portal. Download courses with annual standard or premium memberships. I'm laughing there because my teleprompter auto-corrected transcender to transgender. They are not transgender exams, I promise. They're transcender practice exams. We're excited to be attending and covering the 13th Annual Secure World Boston Conference, March 22nd and 23rd at the Heinz Convention Center in the Back Bay in Boston. Secure World brings together New England cybersecurity community for high-quality training, collaboration, and networking. This year's theme is Surviving the Siege, Medieval Lessons in Modern Security. Don't miss presentations from Larry Wilson, Esmond Kane, Sandy Backick, and many more. Earn 12 to 16 CPE credits And Security Week listeners save $100 off their registration for a full conference pass. Go to secureworldexpo.com and use the discount code SecurityWeekly and join us at Secure World Boston. Jason Wood, excuse me, is going to introduce himself by... Got a tickle in my throat there. What's going on, Jason? How are you?
Good. How are you? Sounds like you're having a rough day today.
I am. The autocorrect for the win or fail, I'm not sure which. It made for interesting announcements, nonetheless.
Fun reading.
How do we follow that? We follow that with the Wikipedia of the spy world.
That's right. So this was kind of an interesting article. So one of the things intelligence agencies deal with all the time is they collect information that, oddly enough, is a bit sensitive. And how do they share that with each other and act on it in a way that gets the information out, still kind of controlled, and doesn't, we don't end up with things like showing up on WikiLeaks like we had last week.
So wait, are they using a wiki to do this?
They are using a wiki to do this.
Wikipedia sounds like it uses a wiki to do this, or WikiLeaks rather, in Wikipedia. And I like wikis, and so do three-letter government agencies. Imagine that.
16 of them, nonetheless, at that, which startled me because I didn't really know that we had 16 different spy agencies inside the U.S. government.
Seems high. It's kind of I love this because I love wikis, and we use wikis here on the show, and I think wikis are a great thing. And some people just don't like wikis at all. Like you're either there's no middle ground there. Like you're either a wiki person or you're not. And so I find it interesting that they chose this technology to accomplish the sharing of information. Well, I guess I'm not surprised. Maybe they all fall in the camp of liking wikis.
Well, one of the things that was kind of interesting about this is it kind of fell into, as they're describing it, by Major General Myros, who was responsible for trying to come up with how we get 16 different agencies who don't like talking to each other to collaborate. And from what he described as a grassroots response, you had this Wikipedia type site that started growing. And now the site runs on the Intel Link network, so it is segregated. It isn't something that is on a common network that people have access to. However, it does contain quite a bit of information that is described as anywhere from unclassified up to the lowest rung of top secret, whatever that qualifies to. What it was interesting, General Myros said that everybody he talked to, senior officials and stuff like that, who he was telling this was a good idea, figured that even as they were listening to him and agreeing with him, that they figured this is going to just die on its own and go away. And it turned out that didn't happen. So a number of analysts dove onto this and just kept producing content. And they were doing things like talking about events that were going on, processes. What else do they say here? The idea was to get to the point where what one of the analysts described, Chris Rasmussen, as crowdsourced intel reports, and which is kind of a pretty high bar to set for something like government agencies and cooperation between them. And Intel is going to want to keep things secret as much as possible. So the idea of crowdsourcing this is really kind of wild, but it worked its way up from the bottom up. And what they found is by the time this was started back in about 2005, 2006 range, and when General Myros retired in 2008, he said actually he couldn't go into pretty much any intel agency without seeing shortcuts on people's systems to the site. So, and it's called Intellipedia. Now, there are a couple of things that are really interesting about this to me. One, you need to collect this data, and you need to get it out to other agencies who can do something with it. The CIA, for example, doesn't control borders. They've got intel that somebody's coming in to do something. They have to somehow communicate that out. One of the things that we had that was discovered in the aftermath of September 11th was that bits and pieces of all the data was out there that could have indicated quite a bit more about what was happening with the pending attack, but because the agencies didn't talk to each other, nobody shared it and nobody put everything together. So you have the possible benefit of, hey, we've got all this information coming in through these different agencies. We're able to put it together. We're able to, start to connect the dots, if you will, maybe paint a little bit of a picture of maybe something that's coming up. So you've got some real possible benefits to the mission of the intelligence agencies. At the same time, here's a handy site to go download data and post it to WikiLeaks or something like that. So, you've got that risk versus reward here of having data that slip out that you don't want to have leaked and portrayed in a way that maybe you feel is inaccurate or unfair, but that is going to basically harm the reputation of the agencies. But at the same time, if you don't have the data and nobody's able to share it and connect the dots, then it's really not useful data anyhow.
Yeah, and I think it's left up to people who have access to this to make the determination as to what data goes on it, right? I'm sure there's probably also automated processes as well that might look for things that shouldn't be there or absences of things that should be there as well. I mean, you're not going to know.
Right.
Unless you talk to a reliable source that tells you exactly how it's working, which probably isn't going to happen. But I think I would hope that a couple of things. One, that people working for all of these agencies are trained what is data classification is and follow the rules. I didn't say people can't make a mistake, but let's hope that happens. I also hope that we use this information to protect the United States and not destroy people's privacy, as we've talked about on the show as well. Specifically in your example, Jason, of course, it's been in the news about people's phones being searched as they are crossing U.S. borders, which I just think that's probably a topic for a different segment, but made me think of it when you mentioned how they're sharing data. If that can be a more accurate process. However, I like to think that it stays in the confines of like the amendments and stuff. Let's hope that it's doing that, which is always my concern.
Yeah, it does raise some questions as to what data is in here, how far it reaches out there, how much of it's getting into U.S. citizens' data and information, for example, where we have laws that are supposed to prevent that from happening. But
it's not so much what's there, it's more so how it's used, right? I think that's even more concerning. I mean, yes, it is concerning if data is going to be there. However, in what context is that data being portrayed, and what are people doing with it, right? If they're supposedly illegally searching people's phones, based on because they have access to this data, then it's not being used appropriately, right?
Yeah, and I do worry too that once you start heading down this path of, hey, we're collecting this data, it makes it really easy to have scope creep and add in more data, and then you start getting into some areas that are really interesting for abuse, potentially. As it sounds right now, they're talking about things like tips on tradecraft in some of his pages, information about conflicts that are occurring in different places of the world. So probably you're not going to get into the real detailed, hey, this is what we found on Jason's phone as he was coming back from Mexico or something like that.
Yeah, and I think Doug White said it best and helped put it in perspective that, hey, it was on Enterprise Security Week, I think last week. He was like, spy organizations or government organizations that have a mission in this area, they're going to collect information. If someone, I love this example, right? If someone presented at a panel at a conference and said they knew a way they could potentially blow up the sun, like that gets archived somewhere, right? And so I think we saw with the CIA leaks that level of information, and I think that information is always going to be collected, and with I think good reason from a lot of these organizations. It's similar to the way we do the podcast, right? Like when people talk about these different hacking techniques, we talk about them on the show. They may not all be reality today, but it's important information to have. And certainly over the progression of the years of doing the show, we've talked about things before. We're like, wow, that's total theory. And now today we're like, oh, well, that just became practice. That's kind of interesting. So
exactly.
I think you're right. It does depend on what information is being stored there as to what concerns we would have as citizens.
Yep, but an interesting thing just to see how the ground what they're describing. Like I said, the analyst-driven, the grassroots effort here built this thing up to where sharing of information is occurring between the intelligence agencies, and they did comment on it in here that a lot of this seems to be driven by the younger analysts. Mm-hmm. They're describing it as the millennials who are pushing this out to happen. So as the newer members of the workforce are coming in, and they're used to sharing this type of information or sharing information, rather, it's very natural for them to start putting things in a format like this and sharing the information back and forth amongst each other.
Absolutely. Jason Wood from Paladin Security, thank you very much for your commentary today. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. We'll see everyone next time on Hack Naked News.